Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema has arrived in Beijing as he continues his state visit to China. Cambodian Prime Minister Han Manet is also in Beijing on his first official overseas trip since taking office. China's central bank said on Thursday it plans to cut the reserve requirement ratio by 25 basis points from September 15. And in the U.S., lawmakers invited the nation's top tech executives on Wednesday to discuss the potential regulation of the AI industry. From CGTN headquarters here in Beijing, this is Global Business. I'm Michelle Vandenberg. Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema has arrived in Beijing as he continues his state visit to China. President Xi Jinping will hold a welcome ceremony for him, and the two heads of state will hold talks and jointly sign cooperation documents. Zambia was the first country in the Southern Africa region to establish diplomatic ties with China. The two countries will make 60 years of diplomatic relations next year. Meanwhile, Cambodian Prime Minister Han Manet is also in Beijing for an official visit to China until Saturday. This is Han Manet's first official overseas trip since taking office in late August. China's central bank said it plans to cut the reserve requirement ratio on Thursday. The People's Bank of China said it would cut the ratio by 25 basis points to 7.4% effectively from Friday. This is the second time the PBOC has cut the amount of cash that banks must hold as reserves. Earlier in March, the central bank announced a 25 basis point cut. The lender said the decision was made to help maintain liquidity and provide long-term support for financial institutions. The August financial data released earlier this week showed both new yuan loans and total social financing gained significantly compared to last year. And experts believe that this latest cut is a way for the central bank to optimize the liquidity structure of commercial banks and financial markets and further encourage investment and consumption. Take a listen.
In July, the Political Bureau meeting set the tone, specifically pointed out that the role of total and structural monetary policy tools should be played, and the market has certain expectations for the central bank's triple R rate cut this week. The triple R rate cut would also allow banks to continue providing low-cost funding, giving them more room to boost the infrastructure investment and commodity consumption.
The RRR rate cut this time is important for the central bank to strengthen counter-cyclical adjustment and support the real economy. After this, financial institutions have more incentive to lend to businesses and households at lower interest rates. The availability of credit and the willingness of investment and consumption will be stronger.
For more on this, let's bring in Liu Zhiqin, Senior Research Fellow at Renmin University of Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies. Professor Liu, thank you so much for joining us. So what's the rationale behind China's decision to lower the triple R at this particular time, and how does this move align with the country's broader economic objectives and policy priorities?
I should say that the decision has been made in the right time because we have met many challenges and uncertainties in our development, especially the economic recovery in the second quarter, still waiting for more promotion. So in this way, that the cut of the triple R is a very important signal to the global market and also for the domestic market. Especially we see that this reduction, this triple R will release at least 500 billion renminbi yuan liquidity. This is a huge number and the financial support to the real economy. At the moment, we see that there are many uncertainties ahead of us. So we need more financial tools and financial promotions to stabilize our economy. As we know, September is very crucial for the whole year's realization of our target. So this is a very important step for the last 3 months to further develop our economy.
And now with the reserve requirement ratio for financial institutions at around 7.4% after the latest cut, what are the expected implications for the Chinese financial system and overall economic performance?
I think the more important thing that for the financial institutions, especially for the banking system, they need not only to reduce the triple R ratio or interest rate, but also they have to consider the measures how to promote the efficiency financially, how to use this liquidity in a better result, how to put this budget in a real economy or what the urgent need in order to get a booster of the economy. So how to make this financial more efficiency is more important task for our financial institutions, especially for those bankers. They have to use all these good chances that not only to lower this interest rate or to promote more mortgages to the buyers or to the market, but also how to make the high quality and better quality of the financing and support. This is a quite important issue for all.
And in the context of China's ongoing efforts to manage liquidity and also stimulate economic growth, what implications does this triple R cut have on inflation, interest rate, and investment trends? And how might it affect domestic and international market sentiments towards China?
Actually, such action will be expanded or how to explore in a short time because the global market will have more reaction positively. We can see the stock market will have more response than in Hong Kong and in Tokyo or in European countries. But actually, we need something that to consider how to make this implication of this reduction of triple R. For instance, the moment the car industry developed very well in Europe, now in these days that in Europe that the hard discussion about how to compete with the Chinese car industry. So how to make all this financial support in the right place, the right industry, not only in the real estate, not only in the education, healthcare transformation, but also the car industry, how to make it really a well-being that green development in order to have more efficiency, high quality development. So this is a good chance, a good signal that central bank is willing to have more prudent, more aggressive, in my opinion, that quite aggressive policy that to support our economic recovery. But in the short term, that we need more efforts to concentrate the key industries to support the Belt and Road Initiative. We know that the 10 years stimulus money will be taken place. So we need a lot of financial boosters and stimulating all these projects all over the world.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for your insights. Really appreciate your time. Liu Zhiqin, Senior Research Fellow at Renmin University's Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies. A stronger Chinese economy is certainly a boon for Australia. Nearly 1/3 of the country's trade is with its largest trading partner, China. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is scheduled to visit China later this year. Our reporter Timothy Pope sat down with the chair of the Australian Chamber of Commerce in Shanghai, Heidi Dugan, to discuss the business community's hopes for the visit.
We've had relations for 50 years now, so like all relationships, they go up and down, and I think this is just a really good sign that everyone's moving in the same direction. So everyone from AusCham Shanghai is super excited about having him over here, and that there's that sort of development of relationship and conversation. And I think that whole concept of it being 50 years and that there is the anniversary is a well thought up, idea that now is the time to re-inject sort of, some energy into that relationship and to, hope that it flourishes for another 50 years.
As far as bilateral trade goes, there have been a number of sticking points which have actually been overcome recently. Of course, tariffs on several goods, including coal and barley imports from Australia to China, but some sticking points do still remain. Are you confident that those issues can be sorted out and the business can go back to normal?
Well, first of all, we'll talk about the tariffs that have already passed. I mean, everyone's very excited, and it just shows that, again, we're moving in the right direction. Will the lobster and wine tariffs be lifted? I think that's the whole point in these conversations. It's finding an even ground where it benefits both countries. You know, we're supplying, but then there's the consumer here that loves it and that wants it. So I think when there is a win-win situation, it will always end up moving in the right direction.
Education is, of course, another major Australian export. Are the Australian educational institutions back on the ground here in China trying to sell the idea of an Australian education?
None of the universities left. They were here completely supporting, like for instance, the University of Sydney, they've got offices in Suzhou, and they were inviting all the students to come down to their office to be able to continue their studies. For OzCham Shanghai, we really made sure that for the alumni, everyone that was trying to graduate, that we could do graduation events for them. So, you know, that has really just continued through the process. Will we push harder? Will we invite and welcome the Chinese to come to Australia? Of course. It's such a beautiful relationship when we have students coming to Australia, they learn there, then they come back to China, and it again just strengthens the relationship between the two countries.
And more broadly on foreign investment, China's cabinet, the State Council, has issued its opinions on foreign investment and increasing it, and has addressed issues including competition, tax incentives, and research and development. Are these a confidence booster for Australian companies who do business here in China?
Absolutely. I think for the Australians, the Australian businesses that are here, it's always encouraging to hear that the Chinese government is trying to find ways to support not only the business but also life here. On the second level, I think it's really important for organisations like OzCham Shanghai to take that message back home and to share that with Australian businesses who are thinking about coming into China. So at the two different levels, I think it's important, and it's really about how we get those messages out to the people here and also to the people back home.
Over the past decade, 152 countries and 32 international organizations have signed up to the Belt and Road Initiative. As the initiative hits its 10-year mark, CGTN's reporters have traveled to 22 Belt and Road nations across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America to uncover stories of collaboration, transformation, and people-to-people exchanges under the framework. Setting off from Kunming, capital of China's Yunnan province, our reporters are heading to Bangladesh, Egypt, and Cambodia. In this episode, we join our reporter Aaron Liu in northwest Bangladesh, where an infrastructure project will link 16 towns to the capital, Dhaka, and boost cargo transport in the country.
As an agricultural powerhouse in South Asia, Bangladesh boasts abundant fruit resources. However, due to transportation limitations, many fruits rot before reaching the market. How can these fruits be transported? I visited the Sansak Phase, the second road project.
I'm currently 263 kilometers northwest of Dhaka, Bangladesh. We're seeing that this road being constructed right in front of us, and some sections of it are already open for traffic. It's called the Sansak project.
Not far from the road, there's a banana market where we learn that villagers in the surrounding areas transport freshly harvested bananas to nearby cities through this road.
This is banana market. Since the construction of this road, the residents' lives have changed dramatically. More and more villagers are using this road to find employment in nearby cities, and more fruit farmers can transport their produce to further places, increasing their income. The pressure of fruits rotting the fields due to the inability to transport them has reduced.
This road is a path to wealth for us and has improved our lives.
More and more fruit farmers can transport their produce to further places and sell them.
Currently, 80% of the project has been completed, entering the final stage. Workers are currently using a paving machine to carry out on-site operations.
The use of concrete pavers in this project, which lays concrete pavement, is the first of its kind in Bangladesh's highway construction projects. The laid pavement offers several advantages, including durability, low maintenance and repair costs, and minimal impact from environmental factors.
As the project progresses, a large number of local engineers have also grown. The construction of the project has provided 3,000 jobs. Such a materials engineer from the local area has witnessed the construction of this road, and his dream is to build roads for his hometown.
As far as I can remember, this road has always been muddy and congested. So it was my childhood dream that the road in my hometown would be wide and free of potholes. When I joined this project, I felt that my dream was about to come true. This job has improved both my skills and income.
After the completion of the road, it will greatly facilitate the villagers' travel. This is also Sabj's proudest moment because he can share his joy with his family. Aaron Liu, CGTN, Bangladesh.
You're watching Global Business, still to come. Tech giants discuss possible AI regulations with U.S. lawmakers. More on that when we come back.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global Business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business, only on CGTN.
Over to the U.S., where lawmakers invited the nation's top technology executives on Wednesday to discuss the potential regulation of the AI industry. The guests include the boss of X and Tesla, Elon Musk, as well as former Microsoft CEO Bill Gates, have expressed support on the matter, though with different views. Our Owen Fairclough reports from Washington.
They're some of Silicon Valley's biggest names, but getting them into the same room is rare. And yet they're doing just that this Wednesday, assembled on Capitol Hill to effectively teach lawmakers about artificial intelligence. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Sundar Pichai, who runs Google's parent company Alphabet, and perhaps most importantly of all, the founder of ChatGPT, all attending the Senate's inaugural AI Insight Forum. And it's arguably ChatGPT that allows conversations between humans and computers that has demonstrated to the wider public, as well as lawmakers, the limitless possibilities and threats posed by AI. So this bipartisan forum is a way to try and work out how to regulate AI, though neither the general public nor the media have been allowed to attend. But relations between lawmakers and tech have often been checkered. Consider the grilling Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg received from Congress about how Facebook, as it was then known, became a vehicle for misinformation. And just a few blocks from Congress, Google is battling the Justice Department in court over allegations it spent years abusing its dominance of the search engine market. But lawmakers nevertheless need to consider how to regulate this revolutionary technology that has profound implications for just about every facet of daily life, as well as national security. But perhaps the ultimate test for some of these tech titans who've often pushed back on Congress's attempts to regulate them is how much regulation they're willing to accept. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
Now for more on the U.S. AI Forum, let's cross to our John Terrett in New York. Hi there, John. So tell us what was discussed at the forum.
Michelle.
Hi.
Hey there, Michelle. Well, you know, it was really about stopping AI from getting out of control. In other words, think of it like this: the promise and the peril of AI and the worries that we all have about that at the moment. And the best example I have for you is Google's Bard. Okay, now Sundar Pichai was there. He heads up Alphabet, or Google, and this thing can write an economics essay in 5 seconds, okay, and get an A for it. But the same device is also then recommending 5 books for further reading that it completely makes up. it can also write romantic poetry for no reason. Nobody asks it to, it just does. And I think Google is a little bit concerned about this, and I think everybody else is as well, including the Senate, who basically were looking for a war plan yesterday from 20 of the biggest names in technology here to prevent a future disaster. Elon Musk, who I'm going to quote in a second, talked about the possibility, the very real possibility, of a future disaster regarding AI, and they want to head that off. So they gathered 20 of the top tech people in the room. They're all worth about $400 million collectively. Microsoft, which is the name behind ChatGPT, Google was there, and of course Elon Musk and Facebook as well. Now, Elon Musk was very chatty afterwards. He spoke to a local business television station here and said that it was a civilized discussion among some of the smartest people in the world. A great service, he said, of the meeting to humanity might go down in history. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook did not speak publicly afterwards, but his people gave a readout of what he said, and what he apparently said was the importance of AI and the importance of AI open source development. Now that prompted some pushback because, of course, open source development can lead to bugs in the system, as we saw with the development of the open source internet. The meeting was 2 sessions of 3 hours long. They had lunch in the middle. There was a show of hands asked for by the senators from all big tech titans. Do you think the regulation is necessary? Should we move forward with that? There was a universal show of hands. They all thought that regulation was necessary. Disagreement, though, on what kind of regulation. Should it be a new regulator? Should it be an existing one? Should it be a unitary one? Should it be a multi-layered one? There was some pushback from Republicans as well, concerned about regulation hobbling the development of AI, which they think could bring untold benefits in terms of new jobs. It's not clear to me how that would happen, but certainly there's a school of thought out there that certainly thinks that. The Senate hopes to have a draft proposal on the table by the end of this year or early next year. The problem with that, Michelle, next year is US presidential election year, and everything slows down in Washington during that time. So we'll see what actually happens. And there was also some disappointment from Democrats, I think, the fact that this meeting was completely held behind closed doors. The media weren't allowed in, and all of this reporting is secondhand. Michelle?
All right, great stuff. Very interesting. Thank you so much. John Terrett for us in New York. Now, to get more insights on AI legislation trends, we're now joined by Jamil Ahmad, Chief Analyst at online trading brokerage GTC. Jamil, thank you so much for joining us. So what are the current trends in the development of AI legislation in the U.S., and what challenges and disagreements are arising in this regulatory landscape?
Thank you, Michelle. I think the first thing is to say that we see a coordinated action now between lawmakers and tech to sit down together. We shouldn't forget the relations in the past have been strained. If we look at what happened over the pandemic, where the tech sector became such a huge proportion of the S&P 500, which is the major 500 companies of the Standard & Poor's Index, we saw a lot of concerns there from lawmakers' side about tech dominance, about monopoly, and so forth. But in fact, it's actually been the tech leaders that have come to the forefront and said on this occasion, AI has a lot of negative impacts on humanity, on civilization. They're the ones who really shine the spotlight here. And if we look at what's happened over the past 2 decades, we see that tech has dominated all of our lives. And in some ways, the regulators and the lawmakers were a bit behind the curve here. But the tech sector itself is trying to say, look, we need to monitor this. This is a threat. We need to get behind it and try to regulate this sector. And I think if you look at the concluding comments that come out from Elon Musk when he was talking to the reporters about this potentially being the most important meeting for civilization, the future of civilization, those are really important metaphors and words that have been used. So I think that really the challenge here was getting them together. But there's a big opportunity that we are seeing now more of a collaboration between the tech leaders, the experts in this field, and the lawmakers to try and figure out some sort of regulation around this phenomenon.
And what are some of the issues and concerns surrounding the use of AI technology in areas such as technological innovation and the protection of human rights?
Well, essentially, none of us are aware of how powerful and dominant the AI can become. We just used the previous example towards how tech has changed all of our lives over the past 20 years, and in some unforeseen ways. None of us are really aware on the ground level of how powerful AI could become. We're talking about some of the negatives here. Could be job losses, the possibility of national security, some more severe threats. But on the other hand, we have some advantages here. If we look at the medical industry, what benefits and improvements that AI might have on medicines and medical advances. It's a bit of a battle between good and evil here. So what really we need to do is try to get hold of the good and make sure that AI is not just used to automate profits, to automate sectors, and try to make as many profits and money as possible, because there are some advantages, but it's about making sure that some of the risks don't outweigh the benefits.
And as you mentioned, the forum is now considered by reporters the most important meeting for future civilization. How do you see this discussion shaping the direction of AI legislation and regulation moving forward?
There should be more meetings, but I think here what we also need to do is welcome in more tech leaders and more industry experts from other parts of the world as well. This one was very much centered around the US firms and US technical dominance. But if we started inviting other AI leaders from different parts of the world and everybody started collaborating together, this would more provide a coordinated effort and help the quest to try and stop any risks that AI might have, because there are some positives, but it's about trying to counteract the potential negatives.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for your insights. Really appreciate your time. Jamil Ahmad, Chief Analyst at Online Trading Brokerage. The Middle East is embracing the digital economy as part of its efforts to diversify away from oil. Jim Stenman discovers the booming industry of gaming in the Gulf region.
A young population and scorching heat, two ingredients helping to fuel a sector that's growing at rapid speed.
The Gulf region might be synonymous with oil wealth, but some of the profits from that industry is increasingly being redirected into emerging sectors such as gaming and esports.
And in the MENA region, what is interesting is that if you look at 5 years ago, almost 90% of the investors were from within the region. But now what we've seen is that there is an equal divide of international as well as MENA-based investors.
Among those investors, Saudi Arabia's government, which according to Bloomberg is pumping $38 billion into becoming the next hub for the video game industry. Its sovereign wealth fund is already a major investor in Chinese esports and tournament operator VSPO, having secured a $265 million stake in the firm earlier this year.
There is that effect of the top-down support that we've seen in this region. Take Saudi Arabia as an example, right? It's a very young nation with a very young population, and the leadership is also very young. So the leadership of the country understands gaming, understands esports, understands its impact on the general public, and hence we've seen a strong support towards that industry.
And that holistic approach taken by the Saudi government feeds into efforts to become a global center for gaming and esports by 2030, including creating employment opportunities for Saudi youth, while neighboring UAE is also busy building a gaming ecosystem.
So companies coming here in gaming and esports, they would find access to ongoing mentorship, to acceleration, to funding. We have a network of investors, and also access to a community that is always engaging.
According to the Boston Consulting Group, about 60% of the region's population consider themselves to be gaming enthusiasts, more than the global average of 40%, with Saudi Arabia representing 45% of the region's sector, with a value of more than $1.8 billion.
The proximity of the UAE to India is very close, of course, and there's strong ties and connections from both countries. And if you look at the population, there are, I think, over 1.3 billion people under the age of 30 with those markets combined, with Indian subcontinents and MENA together.
And that's an opportunity that may simply prove too good to miss out on. Jim Stenman, CGTN, Dubai.
And that will do it for this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michelle Vandenberg in Beijing. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.
This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.